into this assumption, if I just have the right product, people are going to buy it. But unfortunately, they end up spending a lot of money, and it's a high risk proposition. So the thing is, like, the solution to this is, how do you launch a product that's low risk and also validating that you're going to have customers from the very first day before you start sinking all this time and money into it? And that's where we are getting into today. So the real problem is that the old model of product launches, where people buy inventory before even validating that there's a need for their product, these are people that buy into the build it and they will come model. They typically come up with an idea and hope that it will sell, but they don't actually have a proven method or system in place to test and quickly validate ideas before they sink thousands of dollars into it. And this assumption of, I think this is a great idea, or my mom thinks it's a great idea, it leads them to spending thousands of dollars manufacturing a product and then have it sitting around, and they gamble their life savings and risk everything on what seems like a high risk proposition. So simply put, the old way that I see people launching products is risky. And what you want to do is actually flip how you approach launching a product. And that's when it becomes not risky. So this is why I call through my customer model, essentially, I look at the customers or the people that launch products that are successful. They do it based on the new model. So the new model is built on the assumption that if you think your product is a good idea, you could be wrong. So the new model is about testing your market, validating that there's a need for your product and that people will actually buy your product before you go and sinking the money into buying inventory. Okay. And the new model will focus on building a targeted audience of buyers so that you have sales from the first day you launch rather than leaving it to chance. Okay. So these two things I really want to highlight, in that when you have a wait list of people that you line up weeks or months before you actually launch your product, you have the ability to do two things. So when you're building up that wait list, you have the opportunity to talk to people, to really test that they will buy your product. You make sure there's a need for your product, but at the same time of you really validating your message and your market, you are building up a wait list of people who have specifically said, I want to buy your product. I'm really excited about this. Okay. And when you do that, when you launch your product in the weeks or months into the future, you already have pre-committed buyers ready to go, so that when you launch, you have sales and revenue coming in from the very first day. And the new model is really focused on co-creating your product with your customer so that you're delivering something they will love and buy. So to give you an example, I launched I don't have it over here, but if you guys can see me, I launched a physical journal called the Monk Manual. And this journal is something where the founder had an idea to he wanted to create a system for himself to get back to the basics of incorporating gratitude and setting priorities in his life. So he developed a system for himself, and then he on a PDF, we'll say, and then he started sharing that PDF with friends when he started to see that his way of capturing priorities and gratitude really helped him. So he started sharing this with other people. And then he essentially had a theory that, okay, this PDF or this Monk Manual system really helps me. And when he started to actually send it to 20, 25 different friends for feedback, that system evolved based on other people's feedback. And the system evolved into people who really helped him mold the product, because other people would provide feedback on things that they love or didn't like about the Monk Manual. And that, when he actually went to mass market with it, he had a nearly perfect product, because he was able to have a hypothesis that I like this product, but how do I know other people will like it? Well, let's actually test that by involving them. So the new model really is focused on having an awesome product that you have really designed alongside your customers, but also making sure you understand who your customer is. And you validated that by not only asking and testing the market, but also making sure you are building up an audience of people that are excited to buy your product. So it's really a two-pronged approach that when you do this, you're able to have not only an amazing product that people love, but you also have an audience of buyers ready to buy the product. Okay, so it's really like, it's a way of flipping things so that you take it from a, I don't know if people will buy this, but let's just invest anyway, very risky, high risk proposition, to something that's like, I think I have this idea, but let's actually test it to make sure it's a good investment. Okay, so that's really the difference. And so the rainmakers, I like to call it the smart ones, but really this is something that I learned from trial and error of how you need to orchestrate a successful Kickstarter campaign. And then I started to see how really the backwards approach that society just, has you, because it's very counterintuitive to build an audience first and then sell your product, but it's really the low risk, high reward way to do it. So once you move to the new model, what are some benefits you're going to see? You're going to be able to build up a targeted audience for your product. So by targeted audience, I mean an audience of people that have specifically shown interest in your product. And I'll show you today what that looks like. You're going to be able to launch your product knowing that it's going to be successful. And you'll finally have a, the launch model is something that typically if you've launched one product, you're able to replicate this for future product launches, which is really cool. So I want to try to show you guys a Netflix video clip from the Netflix documentary called Mad Men that actually shows the new model in action. So I'm going to try to do this. And if the sound doesn't work, that's okay. I'll just give you a play-by-play. So where is this? Okay, so let's go here. So on Netflix, this documentary is called Mad Men, and it's about Steve Madden, the billion-dollar shoe empire. So let's see. Let's see if this works. No. Okay, sorry, 2 seconds. Let's have to change my... Okay, let's try this. Sorry, guys, I'll try one more time, and then if not, I'm just, for the interest of time. Come on, microphone settings. Okay. Settings. There, cool. So it should work now. Present your entire screen. Okay, here we go.
I think, what am I? Am I just a great hustler, an entrepreneur? I mean, Let's start. Nancy, get Carla on the internet.
Yes. Hey, is Carla with you?
Working at Steve is like a 24/7 job. But I think if you're really in the shoe business, then you never turn off anyway.
Can we just sell this fucking shoe? Get it done.
It starts a lot of times with spotting something, a concept that he sees.
If he's like, I love that shoe, I love it, I love it, I love it. If he's never seen it, I've actually seen him say like, let me buy you a new pair of shoes and let me take the one off of your foot.
Always on the job.
Always on the grind.
He'll come in and he'll be excited about something like that and start talking about it and suggest a last or a material or a shape.
We love this, right? We do lots of shoes like this. So switch it to 2 colors, black and a gold.
And then we try to take that idea and make it a reality.
It's speed and product. It's how quickly we can get something made profitably and get out to our stores as quickly as possible. That's where you feel the energy.
I don't think that.
I'm making the two tones no matter what you say, so tough shit. It's a remarkable thing to be able to build right in your own office.
I really don't like the two-tone there. I just don't know how she wears it. It's too much shoe.
If we see something not working, we're capable of changing it around quickly.
Within 3 or 4 hours that the shoe is done, somebody's taking it right to a store and putting it on the shelf.
We want to see the finished product in stores. Who's buying it? Oh, look, that girl's trying it on. Who is that? How old is she? What do you think? We listen to what she's saying. We like sit there and analyze.
And if we can sell 8 out of 12 on a Saturday in downtown Soho, we know we have a winner.
When we get something out there that doesn't hit the mark, it costs us a lot of money.
Does that make any sense to anybody? I don't understand that.
All right. So let me just go back to presentation. And what I absolutely love about the Steve Madden case, the new model in action. So one thing I want to highlight is at the end, they mentioned this litmus test where, yes, Steve Madden has a capacity to quickly test different ideas on the regular, but what they do, in 2015, they reported $1.7 billion worth of revenue. And still, they are treating their product rollout still as a high-risk test. So when Steve or anyone has an idea for a product, they're quickly building a few prototypes, and they have a litmus test to see whether it's worth investing into inventory and rolling out that design across stores across the country. So they will take prototype, and if they'll say 12 of that prototype to a busy store downtown Manhattan, like Soho, and on a Saturday afternoon, and try to sell it. And for their litmus test to be successful, they have to sell 8 out of 12 of those shoes. And if they do, then they're like, okay, we think we have a winner. And then they go to manufacture a small batch. They try to test it, they try to roll it out, and it's a very like orchestrated market test. They don't, even Steve, who has sold, had some heavy hitting, really, really successful products, he still knows that some products will be successful and others won't. So he's consistently testing it because they've seen how expensive it can be just on an assumption or a hunch to think this is definitely going to sell. And then, because think of the price tag, if they go on that hunch and then without even testing it, they go and order 10,000 units of something, that's like thousands upon thousands of dollars of inventory, plus human capital trying to sell it just to realize that this shoe months later is a dud. So they have a quick way of testing it. And that's exactly what they do. And even like you can hear their sales guys who, when they actually are trying to sell it to people in person, they're asking like, they're really watching like who is gravitated towards the shoe, why are they buying it? They'll talk to this person and really you'll just get like insider information to find out exactly what it is about the product that people love, what they would change, et cetera, et cetera. So this is what every smart business and every starting business needs to do, regardless of the revenue that you're doing. You having a litmus test for yourself by really building an audience and knowing that you need to validate your product ahead of time is going to save you. Even if you most likely have a really great product idea, you still don't really understand your customer or why they're going to buy it or who's buying it. So you really have to go and take on the new model and do it Steve's way. And there's a quote I pulled from Steve Madden from, I think it was New York Times or Forbes, where he says that the selling is just as important as the creating. So when you go to sell your product, you have to be aware that the creative process of actually doing product design really should be done with your customer in mind, so that you're able to iterate and iterate and iterate until you have a final product that your customers love. So take it from a literal billion-dollar shoe empire. That's truly the way forward with product launches that I wish everyone was doing, but unfortunately, a lot of people are still stuck in the assumption of build it and they will come. So the new model is the solution to successfully launching products and not have them sit in your basement collecting dust. Okay, so it's really the way forward of having to launch a product successfully. And so for the rest of this presentation, I've built it off my number one goal that I have with people. My number one goal is to have success from day one. Okay. So it's just like imagine yourself, and I'm saying this because I really miss going into restaurants and cafes right now, but imagine you just, you've poured your life savings into opening this restaurant and you've poured everything into having such an amazing product, but unfortunately you forgot to market it or you forgot to put out the press release or invite your friends. And so you now have you have the wait staff and you have this beautiful restaurant, you have chefs ready to go, but you have an empty restaurant. That's not cool for momentum. That's a really bad start. And then it's literally an uphill battle from there. So what you want is you want to have a full restaurant from opening night. Okay. You want that blockbuster movie that is sold out for weeks. That is the same sort of momentum that you want to build off of. And that all starts from paying attention to really what you do before that launch day to orchestrate having sales from day one. So that's what we're really going to talk about is how do you actually build up that wait list? What are some critical things you need to do, but also how do you start getting into the new model where you're able to build up a wait list of people that are excited to buy your product so that you have sales on the very first day when you launch. So let's talk about that. How you set yourself up for success, for sales success from the first day that you launch. So I call this method of building a wait list, and what we're talking about, the predictable launch system. It's predictable because you know that when you follow a specific system to validate a product, to test the market, and to start to build up a wait list, you know that your launch success will be predictable. Okay, you're not leaving it to chance. So the PLS, or predictable launch system, focuses on building key habits and systems so that you have sales from very first day, and then you go to build that momentum through sales and really build your empire online or build that physical product or what your end goal is. And in order to have sales from day one, this involves building a wait list of customers or a fan base that are specifically excited to buy your product. And the PLS includes testing and validating your market, niche, and offer all at the same time while building up an audience so you have sales from day one. So when I say we're testing different variables, when I look at what a product is, so if we go to Steve's example of a shoe, Steve has idea for a new just a new shoe. Okay, I'm not a big shoe person. So Steve has an idea for a shoe, but Steve doesn't know how much he should charge for the shoe. Steve doesn't know what color the shoe should be. Steve doesn't know what demographic. Should this be more for a teenager? Should it be more for elderly person? There's all these factors about this shoe that he's not quite sure about. So when he goes to bring the shoe to market, he has to, before he launches the shoe, make sure that the price is around what people expect. He needs to make sure that the demographic the shoe is tailored toward lines up with the demographic he's going after, right? There are different variables when it comes to bringing your product to market, price, audience, etc., that you want to make sure you have a really good hold on what people are expecting when you actually bring it to launch. And so having a way to test those variables, super important. It's truly the key to having a successful launch, assuming you have a good product. So PLS, making sure that you're testing and validating, is important to make sure that you not only have product market fit, as in the market wants your product, but you have to make sure that the audience actually likes your product and will buy it. And this prevents you from getting stuck with inventory. So what does the timeline start to finish look like? So the predictable launch system starts from really today. If you are truly looking to launch a product online in, say, 3 months or 2 months or 6 months or whatever your timeline is, we have today. And then between today and when you launch is, your timeline's gonna be different, but during that time point, you're looking at validating and testing at the same time you're building a wait list, so that by the time you launch, you then have customers and then you build on that momentum. So that's truly the linear scale of what we're looking at between today and when you launch. So let's take a look at the first step to building up a wait list of targeted buyers to make sure that you have sales from the very first day. Let's look at the motivation first of behind why people buy products in the first place. Okay, so I like to look at customer buying motivation because your product serves a specific need in their life. Okay, this comes down to having um, the transformation that your product enables in someone's life. So I like to really break this down into, let's say I have a headache. Okay, when I have a headache, what I think of when I have a headache is ibuprofen or Advil. Okay, so my current situation is that I have a headache. And there's a gap between where I am now, current situation with headache, versus my desired situation. So my desired situation is I don't want the headache anymore. So the product is what brings me from my current situation to my desired situation, meaning Advil or ibuprofen or Tylenol or whatever painkiller you're using will allow me to get rid of that headache. So when we look at why people buy products, it's because it enables some transformation in their life. Ultimately, your ability to look at how to communicate why someone should buy your product comes down to your product solving a big problem or giving them a desired solution. Okay. So when we look at this in action and why this is important, I didn't want to start with identifying who your customer is because we really have to understand. Okay, so for example, I was doing a coaching call before this, and the guy was selling towels that were dyed with non-toxic dyes. Okay, and he's like, "Who's my customer? Like, who is my person?" Which I'll get into more in a second. So, who is my person? And so when I look at, okay, well, your towel, what is it? Well, it's made with non-toxic dyes. Who do I think would be interested in that? Okay, well, I think I'd be interested, someone with sensitive skin is going to be interested in that because anyone who's had eczema or a allergic reaction is usually from like toxic dyes and chemicals that are used in the coloring process of towels, right? So his main thing is he's like, I think the transformation, or I think the end result that someone has with why they buy my towels is because they want something free of toxins. Okay, and when we then take that, we look at what the product does, the end result, we can then look at, well, who would be interested in that end result and why. And so that's where we take it a step further to identifying who your target customer is. So with towels or any product in general, you want to get really specific on who the person is you're talking to, because different products enable different things. So if we show you the Jamstack, which is that portable electric guitar amplifier, Jamstack, they got really targeted on who their ideal customer is. Really, is someone who plays electric guitar and someone who is frustrated by not being able to play electric guitar anywhere because of the amount of cords and heavy equipment. So they got super specific on who their person is so that they can be very specific with the transformation or the end result that someone gets from using that product. And that's where we then can transition into the section on identifying who your person is, or who is that very specific person that is most likely going to benefit from your product and actually be interested in your product. So first off, to identify who your ideal customer is, you first need to understand your customer's desired situation. Like, what do they want? What is their motivation to buy? So we come down back to current situation, desired situation. And when we look at getting specific, I think from my own journey and even talking to other entrepreneurs, there's a lot of people who are really scared about getting too narrow with their messaging. So they feel like, I'll give you an example. When I first started consulting, before I got into being a specialist with Kickstarter, I was a generalist. Like, I would go to meet people and tell them I will help you get more sales. But people, when I told them that, they were like, well, what does that mean? What I was trying to do is I was trying to target my message to everyone, because I was scared that by getting really specific on the service or the person that I would help, that I would be saying no to all these other people. But what ended up happening was quite the opposite. When I was a generalist, I was like, oh, I help you with sales. And that, like, they're like, okay, well, I can help you with Facebook ads. I can help you build an offline sales team. I can help you. I was all over the map. And that really didn't land with anyone. And so my business really struggled when I was trying to really cater my message and work with anyone. Everything changed for me when I actually decided to get specific on the kind of entrepreneur I worked with and the platform. And I really niched down to be the Kickstarter person. So now, anytime a friend was like, hey, I'm considering doing Kickstarter, I was one of the first people they thought of because of that specific keyword, because I specialized in something, right? And my business exploded from that point on. So the same thing comes down to you having a physical product. You don't want to be a generalist in who you speak to, because if you try to serve everyone, your product is just going to be really bad at doing multiple, not really bad. It's going to be not as good as if you were going to be a specialty solution for that specific person. Okay. Take another example. I have a podcast, and I recently interviewed the founder of Unbound Merino, which is a travel apparel company. So their clothing is, it's light, it's antibacterial, it's wrinkle resistant. And even though their clothing can be used by literally everyone, these guys knew from the beginning that they wanted to target their message to travelers. Okay. So they targeted their message to very specific people. Even though their product had a very broad use, they became the travel apparel company, which was actually a really good positioning thing, because at the time, there were no other brands that allowed you in the travel space that gave you a high quality product like Lululemon. So think Lululemon, but you're able to wear that in a business sense. Like, no one at the time was doing that. So they were able to really position themselves by niching down and becoming a specialist in the travel apparel industry, even though their product had a wide use. And because of that, they became known really quickly. And their Kickstarter, I think it was Kickstarter campaign, they raised about $350,000. So because they got specific on their messaging, they became noteworthy and easy to remember. Okay. So again, get really specific on who your product serves. You're actually going to be more successful by being specific with your message versus trying to cater to everybody. Okay. Just to close off this slide, when you're trying to chase two rabbits, you get none. So really focus on who you're going after and just go all in with that. And know that your marketing, when you actually get specific and you niche down, your marketing is more powerful, more meaningful, and it's much easier to get customers when you know who that person is, so that you know who you should be talking to. Okay. So here's another example. This is the Monk Manual, the 90-day planner. So I use this religiously. Every day it helps me plan my priorities and have more gratitude in my life and whatever. So the main transformation that the Monk Manual offers someone is through their 90-day system. They give you peaceful being and purposeful doing. Okay. So the desired situation is like the motivation why I buy the Monk Manual is because it gives me more system for being more purposeful in my life through their 90-day system. Okay. So this is another example. When we take this from the transformation of like, okay, well, who peaceful being and purposeful doing? Okay, who actually wants that? Well, when the Monk Manual was rolling out their 90-day system, they came down to, after interviewing various people that were using the Monk Manual PDF to really fine tune and get a final prototype, if you will, they came up with 5 main kinds of people that are buying their product. And they identified it not only by identifying who the group is, so like entrepreneurs, for example, but they also identified the transformation or end result that that person would get by using their planner. And this is really important to be able to communicate and understand, so that you then know how to continue those conversations. So for example, the first avatar, entrepreneurs who are heavy on action but light on time so they can better live out their personal missions and enjoy the freedom of running their own business. So who is the avatar? The avatar are entrepreneurs, okay? But what is the transformation? The monk manual allows them to better live out their personal mission and enjoy the freedom of running their own business. Second avatar, working professionals as the person, and they buy what they benefit from, or the transformation they get from the monk manual is they are people that value personal growth and see their work as a means toward becoming their best self. So the monk manual is a system that allows them to become their best self and have more purpose behind what they're doing. Okay. And I'll just do one more here. The third avatar are parents. Parents, why they use the monk manual? Because they're looking for balance and they need a system to help structure the frenzy of parenthood in their career. Okay, so as you see, these messages are very specific. And although the monk manual can be used by many different types of people, you can see that the transformation can be very personal depending on the customer avatar that you're dealing with. Okay, so but again, by you really honing in on the person, so the avatar being an entrepreneur and exactly why they want it, allows your messaging to be way more powerful, which is why I wanted to demonstrate these examples of the avatar and the transformation in a sentence like that. So once you go through and actually identify who your, first off, what is the transformation and who are your top like 3 to 5 avatars. Again, when I've talked to people, you can see here, one of the biggest hangups that I see around avatars is people get hung up trying to find the one, or they have 25. Okay, because when it comes down to your product, there's literally probably multiple kinds of people that will buy it, right? But the goal is to come up with 3 to 5 of the main ones so that you know where to focus your testing first. So once you have your 3 to 5, the next step is actually to go out and start to validate these angles. Okay, so where Monk Manual actually got this information by actively talking to hundreds of people who use the Monk Manual to find out exactly why they buy it and what the benefit or transformation is they get from it. At this point, if you're starting from scratch, you want to start with an assumption. So write down your key statements with who you think your avatars are. But again, like most things you'll learn in business, you're probably wrong. So you do want to go out and test it. You do want to go out and validate that. So here's how you actually do that. First step is identify 5 to 10 people you know that currently have this big problem or desire that you identified in the first step. So what is that big like desire? Like, I want to cure my headache, or I want more peaceful being in my life, or I want non-toxic towels, whatever, right? And then the next step, once you identify these 5 to 10 people, the next step's super important. So you really want to list these people from immediate family that you know. Okay, so you don't need to get all fancy and go into Facebook groups at this point, although that's cool as well. But like, look in your immediate network for people who actually fit the avatar and are looking to have that transformation happen in their life. So you then reach out to these 5 to 10 people with an email or a quick text message. So first thing I'm going to say with this is that I'm going to go through a couple of workbooks that I've pulled from my online training course. If you guys actually want access to this, you could do one of 2 things. You could screenshot what I've done, or you can send me an email, and I'm happy to send over like the documents and the slides that I've actually covered in this. So my email, I'll send that to you or it's going to be in the last slide. So I'll make sure to cover that at the end. So if you actually want this, I'm happy to email that over. So here's what the email or the conversation has to look like to start actually validating who your avatars are, to learn more about your customer and really get clear on what that big problem or solution is that they're looking for. So here we go. Subject line, your opinion. Hey, I'm getting ready to launch the Monk Manual to entrepreneurs that are looking for more peace in their life. Have you heard of any other system that allows them to do this? Have you personally tried anything to solve problem or solution before? I would love to get your insights as an entrepreneur. Talk soon. PS, more than happy to hop on a call if that's easier for you. Okay, so there are different ways to deliver this. Email is probably the most passive. Ideally, I find the most powerful information, or the most powerful way to get this information, is to get on a 10 to 15-minute phone call with someone and really interview them as an avatar with that need that your product solves. Okay, but ultimately, if you're super uncomfortable with the phone or whatever, this is a nice, easy template to get started with. So this is where we've set our assumptions of who our avatar is in step 1. Step 2 is starting to test those assumptions by identifying those people in our family. And the third step is to actively do research to get a glimpse on the current state of the market in your niche, okay? So once you have listed 5 to 10 people in your network that have this big problem solution that your product solves, it's time to take your research a step further and really learn what your market really wants. What are some questions and conversations that are happening? And so to do this, you've got to get some research to get outside of your own head, because, you know, even though you may be your own avatar, you don't know everything there is to know, okay? So and then ultimately, you know, you've done enough research when you can write a full day in the life in your customer's diary, which again, I've given a template for that to actually visually show you what that looks like. Let's go take some water. Okay, so how do you actually do this research? First thing you want to do is start by reading the top 10 blogs in your niche. A cool program I like to use is buzzsumo.com to help you locate the blogs. So I'll actually show you BuzzSumo. Oh, come on. Why did that not work? Am I not able to show you BuzzSumo? Okay.
Weird, guys. It looks like she dropped out of the call by accident. I'm sure she'll be back in just a minute. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to call and text her. I'm not sure what's going on. I hope her computer didn't die or something like that. So let's just sit tight for a little longer. Forgive me. I'm not sure why this is happening, but I'll keep you updated.
Hey, I am back. Sorry, I think you guys.
Welcome back.
Hey, I was talking to myself. I'm so glad I checked my phone. Where did I end off? Did you see the BuzzSumo example I gave?
Guys, can someone tell her can you just put in the chat where she left off?
No. Okay, cool. We're trying to load the page and then Chrome failed and then here we are. Okay, cool. So I'm going to present now. Okay, so going back to, I think we've covered this. So, okay, so guys, did we go over, if you can just drop in the chat, did we go over step 3 here? Research. Yes, perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm glad I didn't get too far. Okay. So just to recap, you know, we've set our hypothesis for who our avatars are and what the big promise solution is, that really what our product enables in someone's life. We've then reached out to friends and family that fit who we think our avatar is, or who are currently looking for that transformation in their life, to have those customer conversations. And now the next step is to really cast our net wider and to become immersed in the community, to follow things like our customer has. So the third step is to research the market's needs and desires. In terms of where we get this information from, a few things. So I want to show you how to get involved in the conversation, so to speak. There's a tool that I will show you called buzzsumo.com, which will help you identify some of the top topics or conversations happening in your niche right now. So let's identify where the top 10 blogs are. So this tool called BuzzSumo. Okay. Present now your entire screen. Okay. So BuzzSumo is there you go. So if you go to buzzsumo.com, this is a paid tool, but they have a good free trial that you can use that I recommend you just kind of get your research done all at once. So let's say I am launching a product in the travel space and I want to have a pulse on what are some of the top topics or trends that are happening in that vertical right now. So what I could do on BuzzSumo is actually type in the keyword that I'm looking for. So I'm looking for the top travel blogs in this case. Okay. So I'm going to click in that, put in that keyword and click on search. And I see here that BuzzSumo is actually going to give me a list of the top shared content online right now. So like the hottest trends, which this information can help me with a couple of things. I can click through this on like the top 10 or top 3 in this case, which is fine, to see really what are they talking about, go through the comments and see what are some of the comments, what are people talking about. I can also use this to identify top travel bloggers, which can really serve me in reaching out to them. Perhaps they can help promote my product. Perhaps it's great content for me to share with my audience, stuff like that. But at this point, we're just using this as a research tool. So I can use BuzzSumo to identify the top blogs in my space. And then I can also use different travel terms, such as I might do, for example, I'm launching a world map, hypothetically. So in travel, I want to try different keywords to come up with different topics in that search term. So let's just say world map is another term I can use. And you want to really get into your customer's head to think of what are some things they're actively searching for interest. And you can use those to type in and get a sense of different things. So BuzzSumo sometimes has some gold, sometimes not, but again, this is a great search tool to get started. Going back to this, the next one is ultimately you want to do a deep dive into the blog posts, the conversation there. But another great tool you can use to get an understanding of products is go to Amazon.com, list off some like the top 5 competing products that you have, and read the product reviews. Like, what are people saying? Okay. You can find in product reviews, people are saying things like what they love about the product or what they don't love about the product, which will give you ideas for what sorts of things you should incorporate in your product design, or things to watch out for as well. Also, what are the top 10 most popular books in this niche? What are they saying? What are they allowing people to do? And then who are the top 5 influencers in this space? Like, what influencers is your customer really following online, and what are they saying? Okay, what are they saying about trends? What are the comments saying, et cetera, et cetera? Okay, so you really do want to cast your net wide to truly get an understanding of your customer by getting into their head and seeing what they follow, and then follow that. It's going to give you lots of research outside of the one-on-one conversations that you have. Once you've done that, the step 4 is pen to paper. So once you've done the first 3 steps, it's really time to get clear on who your customer avatars are. So in the first step, first or second step, we took a look at, okay, I think my product serves entrepreneurs, or I think my product serves people who like to travel. It's very vague, but we want to get really clear on who our avatar is by getting specific to who we're speaking to in order to make sure we have a powerful message that resonates. So what we're going to see in an avatar exercise is you absolutely want to be more clear than my product serves entrepreneurs. What you want to do is you actually want to, when you create your top 3 to 5 avatars, this is an exercise that we work with. Oops. Okay, so what this exercise is it's a prompt. So please feel free to screenshot this. It's a prompt to get you to essentially tell a story. So when I'm writing down who my customer avatar is, I'm not, again, saying it's an entrepreneur around 30 years old. I want to get really clear on who my person is by actually creating a persona for this person. So what I mean is, like, I'll take out a piece of paper and actually write down a half sheet to a full page of who my customer is. I'm getting really, really clear and specific about their current situation. In terms of, here are some questions like, how old are they? Are they male or female? Why do they use your product? What are they struggling with? What do they do for a living? How much money do they make? What are some things that really frustrate them in life? And then what is the situation they're struggling with that will get them to search for a solution and find your product? And ultimately, how is their life better after they have your product? What does that feel like? When you get really clear on creating a persona or a story around your avatar's life, suddenly you have a very, very clear understanding of who this person is. And then you use that as a benchmark in the future, right? So this avatar exercise is 100% something you make up, but it's important that you give them a name, you create a story around their life, and you going through this journaling exercise is going to give you a really clear understanding of motives, their current situation, and how their life is better specifically after they are using your product. Okay, when you do that, when it comes time to like write emails to your list, or when it comes time to write ad copy for Facebook, or to ask yourself, okay, where does my person hang out online? You can just refer back to that avatar and say, oh, these are their interests. Okay, cool. I'm going to use that as a benchmark to then continue research or whatever you want to use it for. So the avatar is the more clear you are and more specific you are with your avatar, the better your messaging is going to be. So again, this avatar over time can change once you get more data from your audience and who you speak to. But for now, your avatar is not one sentence. Try to get as detailed as possible. The more you do that, the more clear you get on who your person is. And then through putting all of this together, when you've spoken, you've spoken to your friends and family, you've done some research online, you've created these made up avatars. Okay, when you do that, you create personas, you're able to then do this day in the life exercise, which is literally being able to journal about how your person spends their day from the time they wake up to the time that they go to bed. Again, feel free to screenshot this. And you really, really want to get clear on how they spend your time so that you know them better than they know themselves. Okay. So once you've gone out and you've done that foundational level work, which, you know, a lot of current e-commerce entrepreneurs do not do, which you need to, because you're leaving a lot of money on the table if you don't do this foundational level exercise. But once you've really gone out, you've done that avatar work and you've validated that positioning, it's time to actively start building your audience. Okay, so the first thing we did was we figured out who is buying our product. And the next thing we want to do is figure out where they hang out online. So here's how we design your launch to have success from the very first day by actively building a wait list. Okay. So going back to my example of the first campaign that failed, I'm now going to get into what we did differently. So first campaign failed. Second campaign exploded, $592,000. Okay. So the number one question I got asked with what did you do differently is this: what did you do differently? So here's what we did differently. We actively focused on building up a pre-launch waitlist so that we had a successful product launch day one. And this is strategy is going to differ slightly based on the platform you're launching on, but specifically for Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or crowdfunding, that first campaign, we made the classic mistake of assuming that because Kickstarter has this global audience, that all we had to do was just launch a product and we will be successful. And that Kickstarter was just going to give us all this traffic. And it's actually not what happened. We made that fatal assumption. And so what we ended up doing that second time, which catapulted us to success, is we really focused on building up a wait list of people that would buy our product on that first day. And when we did that, when we actually brought in that momentum and kickstarted our Kickstarter on that first day, or it was Indiegogo, but anyway, Kickstarter is like the Kleenex brand of the industry. Indiegogo is virtually the same. So we did Indiegogo at that point, and on the first day we brought in like 20,000 in sales, and that trick that got us notified or identified by the Indiegogo algorithm, where these platforms have an algorithm that help them figure out which campaigns are successful and which ones they should give more traffic to. And this is important because Indiegogo makes money when we're making money. So here they picked us up on the first day as like, "Ooh, you guys are a new popular campaign, so we want to help you by adding more fuel to the fire. We want to show you to more people. We want to give you more traction, more visibility on our website." So we quickly went to being the number one campaign on the site, which by the end of the 8th day, we'd raised like over $250,000. It was nuts. The thing, like, it was great. But it all came down to our ability to have an audience and have sales from day one and have momentum from day one. And so now when I look back at every successful product launch we utilize that same principle. So how do you actually build a wait list of people ready to buy your product when you launch? I'm sure you guys are chomping in the bit right now because you're like, okay, I see my avatar. I see that. How do we actually put this to practice? Let's do it. Here's how we build a wait list of buyers, and I am going to take some water first. Awesome. So I like to look at the marketing campaign that goes into building up a wait list of people. And one thing I love about doing marketing strategy is that it's different for everyone. You can bring a product successfully to market with little to no capital, but you can also do it with a budget of $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. So you can really tailor the marketing strategy to your unique situation. And I like to look at having a well-balanced marketing campaign being a mix of organic and paid methods. So organic methods are things that you don't have to pay for or things that are fairly inexpensive. And then paid methods are actively doing paid advertising like Facebook or Instagram advertising, or working with influencers in terms of a sponsored post where you may pay an Instagrammer a few $100, $1,000 to promote your campaign. Okay. So I like to have a healthy mix of both, and I'll explain the pros and cons as well as like what those actual organic methods we use and what are some paid methods we use. So first, before we actually go into the mechanics of each kind of marketing strategy, I want to show you how this all visually comes together, because I think this is, people have a hard time like seeing how it actually comes out, right? So the end goal of building the wait list is to funnel, and all of your marketing efforts is to funnel all interested people to a wait list. Okay, you want them to join your email list. When you are building up an email list of people, you now have a base of those that have now said, I am super interested in this, I can't wait to buy it. And then it gives you one channel to communicate with everyone, to send an email to your list when you go live, send an email to your list when you have a new blog post that comes out, or you're sharing behind the scenes footage or whatever, right? Your wait list is that you're building an email list. And I actually want to show you a couple of live examples that we have of what it looks like to funnel people to a wait list. I have to stop sharing and then reshare. Okay, so the first one we are doing, okay, so the first one we're doing is this one here. So Lid Assist is this really cool gadget that helps actually stop your garbage bin from like banging open, right? If you're a homeowner, you get it. I'm not going to pitch the product here, but what I want to show you is that the very first step in, once you've identified who your customer is, you now have to have a spot online where you send them. You have a spot online where you send people to ultimately show their interest. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you're sending a friend here or if you're doing paid advertising through Facebook. Everyone wants to be, you want to funnel everyone to this, a landing page essentially that has information about your product and the next step. Okay, so we're launching soon on Kickstarter. Enter below to be notified when we're live. As a bonus, you'll receive 50% off of this. Okay, and then there's a big button here that says reserve your discount. So here you are going to enter your name and your email address. And then when you do that, you click on reserve your 50% off, your email will then go onto the wait list. And so this is exactly what you do to build up that wait list of people that have specifically shown interest in your product. And I'm going to talk about this strategy a little bit later to really build up that day one, the day one buzz or the Black Friday effect. So we're going to be ending off the training on that. But this is really what you want to do. Another example of this is this here, another product. So same thing, if you're interested, someone will enter in your email address and click on reserve a discount, okay? Just like that. So when that happens, that's it. Thanks for signing up. Check your email for confirmation. So that's really the first step. And then the next step is it's emails, okay? So that's what that looks like. So I'll go back to tires. Very cool. So that's really the end goal. So now that I've shown you how we build, like mechanically how we build the wait list, how do we actually get people to that website? How do you get people to your landing page? And a landing page is a single page website designed to get someone to either leave their information, so take action on something, or to leave. Okay, so that's why it's very like simple build like that. So let's first talk about organic or free, inexpensive ways to build your audience. So first off, the pros of this is that it's inexpensive and you're getting better quality leads. I say better quality because typically the people that you get through organic channels are like friends and family or friends of friends that have, so there's a like, know, and trust factor already because they typically are built off personal relationships to a certain extent, okay? Or it's more of a warm audience. And the cons to this is that although organic methods typically give you better quality leads, you're actually getting smaller reach. So you're not able to impact as many people with your message or be able to get in front of a wider audience because you are limited to the reach that you have through your organic methods. So when we look at organic,
this is what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking like immediately will be friends and family. Organic in terms of free or inexpensive, you could do influencer marketing. So what that looks like is if you, in the travel space, for example, if I've found a influencer on Instagram, so someone who has 5,000 or more followers, that share my audience. So this influencer on Instagram has an audience of travel enthusiasts that I'm like, wow, I'd love to share my map with those people. What I could do is I can offer the influencer to do a giveaway contest where I'm essentially giving the product away for free in exchange for her promoting or them promoting the product. So can you do a orchestrated giveaway contest where you're getting your product in front of their audience of 5,000 or more people. So that's a way to do it. There is a cost to that in terms of your product costs. You do have to get your product in their hands or to be able to send that to your person. A way around that is to promise product after you've produced. So if you don't currently have like 100, if you haven't done a beta run of or a soft launch of like, 100 units or whatever, if you don't have that to freely send to people, you can still do a giveaway knowing that you can send that product after your campaign is over or after you physically have product in your hand. Okay, so that's another way to do it. Press is a great way to build social proof. It hasn't been that effective in the past of giving you direct sales, but having a quote from Forbes or a head influencer in your space or New York Times or just getting your product featured in press gets your brand name and your product to be talked about by like several people and in front of a wider audience. Okay. And press can either be organic or paid depending on if you are doing the pitching yourself or if you have outsourced it to a firm. Okay, so that's the thing. Another, really cool ways to get free marketing and free money is applying for startup grants locally. This is a really awesome hack where if you're someone who sees yourself being able to pitch for angel investment or you ideally want to have investors in the future, start going around and seeing what schools or meetup groups locally are doing startup competitions, because what you do is you're able to pitch and best case you win, worst case you now have practice pitching in front of hundreds of people, which is excellent market feedback, great practice, and you're also marketing and being able to build tertiary ties with people. So either speaking about your story in front of meetup groups or about your product in front of meetup groups, or even just applying for startup grants and competitions is like an excellent way to get yourself and your product out there. Another organic way of doing this, but has its limitations through reach, is social media. So posting on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, Pinterest, or whatever your platforms are, you are able to share content that people will love and share, and it makes their day better. Okay, like if you're sharing value add content on social media and you're doing it properly, this is a great way by following certain accounts or by including certain hashtags, your content is now searchable by people from all over the world. So social media is really good. It is more of a slow burn approach, but it does give you a brand online essentially. And lastly, value add content. So value add content, I have a student I work with who is launching a brand of travel clothing for petite women, so under 5'4". And so when you join her email list, she gives she will link to a couple of really awesome blog posts, which actually help her audience in their day-to-day lives. So for example, right now she's doing a Stay Inspired series with the brackets in, because we're all locked up for social isolation. Yay. She was sending out value add content, which essentially helps her. The blog post will have like cool exercise tips or meditation practice or cool, easy ways to take your measurements around the house, like, different things that really help your customer, your audience, better their lives. Okay. When you do that, you are you're actually directly building a relationship and building trust, and they want to hear from you as a brand because your brand isn't focused on only the product. You're really focused on improving the livelihood of someone's life in the tribe that you're building. Okay, so different things like that are going to give you a great way to get your brand in front of more people, to build relationships in a way that's inexpensive, but again, it does have its limitations. So that's why I believe in having a healthy mix of organic and paid. So even if you're on a tight budget, paid, specifically I'm talking about Facebook and Instagram advertising. The pros is that you are getting your brand known and discovered by thousands of people around the world. Okay, after a few weeks of advertising in the right budget, you have your ads served over 100,000 times to people, which means over 100,000 or millions of people are seeing your product in their Facebook or Instagram feed or stories, right? And so the absolute pro is that you're casting a wide net. You're being discovered by people all around the globe. The cons is obviously expensive to do this. Okay. In terms of expensive, I mean, it costs money. How expensive does it? What kind of ad budget do you need? I recommend that from a purely testing position, you have like $1,000 to $1,500 minimum just to test your product and get an understanding of like the kind of feedback that's coming back. Okay, from pure testing standpoint, I recommend a minimum of $1,500. If you have money to invest, typically I've seen to build up that wait list, you're looking at spending anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 to build up a email list of people ready to buy your product. But again, you don't need that. You don't have to go big on that first day. So really, I do like a healthy mix of both, because you can really build your own adventure based on if you're flush with cash or you literally have no money. There are ways to do it both economically as well as with a really fat budget. So really depends on you, what channels you can utilize and what your budget is. So don't be deterred by this, because truly your marketing strategy is going to depend on your unique situation, both financially as well as the resources you currently have. So paid methods, I like to look at Facebook and Instagram, as well as bigger brands are doing this. If you have the budget, typically starter brands, I don't recommend this, but paid influencer partnerships. So that is, we worked with Sago Mini, that was a multi-million-dollar company at this point, and they go to Kickstarter to launch a product. They have the advertising budget to pay a big influencer in the home renovation space $5,000 to do a quick video to her thousands of followers, right? Like this woman had, I think, 750,000 followers at this point. They have the budget to do that. If you're just starting off and you are pre-revenue, or you're only doing a few thousand a month, I typically don't recommend paid influencer partnerships, because they don't directly help you with sales. They're great from a social proof angle, but typically it's not a good use of your budget if you're just starting out. Okay. However, if you want to do some paid, I do recommend having a minimum testing budget of around $1,000 to $1,500 for that if you're doing Facebook. So what is the final step? How do we bring this all together? I alluded to this a little bit earlier with the Black Friday effect. So we've gone through 3 steps, or we're going to go through the 3rd step here. The first step is that we set our hypothesis for who our person is, who our customer is, and what is the transformation or reason that they are buying our product. We've then taken that to say, okay, once we have a validated product, how do we actively build our wait list? And we went through pretty much a custom marketing strategy, or how you can customize it based on organic and free. And now once you actually have that wait list of people that have specifically said, I cannot wait to buy your product, how do you actually get them to take action and buy? And this comes down to how you put together your offers, or how you put together your sales plan for that first day or 2 days. So this is where we create a Black Friday effect on launch day. If you guys have ever pledged a Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign, what you're going to see is that Kickstarter and Indiegogo need that momentum on the first day, because how you do on the first day will dictate how much traffic you get, will dictate really, like if you bring in 30% of your sales on that first day, then you are 95% likely to achieve your overall goal. So really, if your goal is $100,000 to sell on Kickstarter in 30 days, when you build up a wait list of people and you do everything to make sure that you're bringing in $30,000 on that first day, that is how you're going to be able to close the gap, or sorry, like 33,000. That's how you're going to be able to close the gap and bring in the additional like 70%, right, of that. So really important for Kickstarter, Indiegogo campaigns to have that momentum on the first day. But even if you're not doing a Kickstarter campaign, you still want to have that day one momentum, because you want the blockbuster effect. You don't want the empty restaurant. You want the opening night sold out for weeks. That's what you want. And how you do that is by incentivizing people to buy on the first day. So what that means is making them an offer they can't resist. I remember a few years ago, I left at 2 a.m. to go drive down to Detroit to see what Black Friday in America is all about. And I remember, like, we arrived at a mall and there was a Best Buy around 4 a.m. and there was a lineup snaked around the building at 4 o'clock in the morning for Black Friday for Best Buy. I was like, this is nuts. But I know, because what did Best Buy do to create that sort of buzz? Well, they offered door crasher specials, which means for the first 10 people in the store, you get like an LCD plasma TV for like 90% off, like crazy deals for the first few people. And so what they're doing is they're building up that herd effect. That's not the right word. They're building up this like scarcity and excitement, because they're only offering a limited number at a hefty discount. And when you're one of the first people, you get to take advantage of that. So when you look at Kickstarter, Indiegogo campaigns, they do the same sort of thing, where they're offering the first 25 or the first 50 at a crazy discount, because they want that wait list to jump in and be help on that first day. And really, that's what you want to do as well. Any good launch will give their wait list an incentive to buy early. Okay, you do this by creating a few early bird packages that are heavily discounted and sell out fast. So you create a Black Friday effect, which means you automatically are, boom, you're getting sales from day one. And then everyone jumps on that because they want to take advantage of the best offer if they're serious about it. And then from that point, you've just created a successful launch. You've now built momentum and you have sales from day one. And really, that's how you orchestrate a successful launch. So I wanted to end this off by saying thank you. A couple things. If you guys are interested in learning more about product launches or whatever, I have 2 podcasts. One is Crowdfunding Uncut with 130 episodes, and there's another general e-commerce one, Launch and Scale podcast. So you can grab both of those at kirsten.com. Also, if you want any of the resources that I shared in here through like earlier on, please do send me an email. Happy to get my team to send those over. But apart from that, thank you for your time today. I'm surprised I still have a voice, but yeah. So what we're going to do, I guess, is questions at this point. Give me a second to pull up those questions. All right. Okay, here we go. So when advertising to build your list, what content can you use to advertise without a final product to use as imagery? It is difficult to use platforms like Instagram. Some products are difficult to have an MVP without an investment. Yeah, I get that. So content used to advertise, ideally, we're not using CAD drawings, we're not using renderings, but if you can get something that as close to, okay, for example, so we have people that photograph non-final prototypes, and they have something that looks half decent that they're able to take a product shot of, or a lifestyle shot. So a lifestyle shot is someone using your product. Okay, so it's like your product in action doing something. So typically, if you're putting advertising dollars behind it, I do recommend that you have some good looking product photos. Otherwise, you're going to have a negative return on that, and that you're photos have to be enticing enough for someone to click on the ad to go through, right? In terms of like if you're not doing paid, but you want to do more like a sneak peek sort of advertising, then you can just be using, you don't even initially have to use product shots if you want, right? Like you can just start using, you can use renderings. You can even like with the Monk manual, for example, they did not have a final product. So they were sharing like literal PDFs to kind of start sharing their system online. So I would say if you're really like, if you're pre-prototype and if what you have is really ugly right now, try to get creative with it. For example, you may be launching a line of teas, right? You don't have the packaging finished for that. What can you do? What can you share that's still kind of valuable knowledge? Maybe you can share, if your avatar likes teas, you can start sharing different tea recipes. You can start sharing flavor profiles of your teas. You could start creating blog posts or sharing content from other very popular tea brands, okay? Another thing I've seen Amazon sellers do before they even have a product, if I know that I want to sell in the yoga space and I want to have a line of yoga products, but I haven't actually selected my product yet, what I can do is I can start to build up an Instagram following of people that love yoga stuff, okay? I can start building a Facebook group for people who love yoga. I can build a Facebook page that shares a bunch of yoga best practice tips, okay? And then that's what you can do, because you ultimately need to start building up a audience of people that are your niche, so that when you actually have time to show them product, you have a base. So I wouldn't wait until you have an actual product to phototype if you can actually start by building a following of people based on like tips or content or that sort of thing. Cool. Does that help? Awesome. I guess just, yeah. Second one, have you created an audience using these methods for products sold only in retail stores? If it's not easily accessible to all, like an e-com product, would you need to have the list much larger? If I don't understand that question. So yeah, so in terms of like, typically I only do, okay, in the past I've done Kickstarter products, and Kickstarter is for new products only, right? But I have used these same practices for non-crowdfunding products in terms of building a wait list and launching a Shopify store. So indirectly, yes, I have not done specifically retail, but I have done this method for products that want to get online and have launch on their own website, okay? And if it's not accessible to all, would you need to have the list much larger? Ultimately, that depends. If you are doing a crowdfunding campaign, because you're working with a platform that requires you to have a certain 30% momentum. So if you're doing a Kickstarter campaign and you want to raise $100,000, you need to have an audience capable of giving you 30% of sales in that first day. So $100,000 translates to 30%, translates to 30,000. Okay, so in that case, your audience size needs to be enough to get 30 grand in sales in the first day. In terms of have the list larger, it just comes down to what your sales goal is within the first day, first month on your own domain. But ultimately, the bigger your list of people, the more you're going to sell. So I hope that answers that question. I'm not too clear on that. Okay, I'm gonna continue, and then if I didn't catch that, if you could just like write on here, that'd be cool just to clarify. Do you know of a crowdfunding campaign? Oh, wow, here we go, long day. Do you know of a crowdfunding platform that does not require the specific product to be sent to the customer for retail sold only products? No, the specific product. Okay, well, with Kickstarter, traditional crowdfunding is that it's rewards based. So people will give you money in exchange for product, right? However, if you don't want to actually send product, there's equity crowdfunding. And equity crowdfunding is where you are putting up a crowdfunding campaign, and then people are actually giving you money as investors. So you're selling shares of the company as opposed to the physical product. Okay. Would you recommend artificially inflating your first day sales by buying your own product? The answer is no to that one. So if you're using Kickstarter and Indiegogo, sorry, like any crowdfunding platform, your sales are public. And what some people do is they will buy their own product in a way to get first sales on that day. So it's like, instead of building this wait list of people, you'll just kind of self-seed and give the campaign $5,000 of your own money. That is against the community guidelines and the terms and conditions for these platforms. So it's actually against the rules. And these platforms, it's very common for people to do this. I don't recommend it because it's putting your campaign at risk. So if you get caught, as in if Indiegogo finds that you have personally self-seeded or someone on your team has invested in your campaign, that's grounds for them to shut down your campaign. So they can shut down your campaign at any point, or even at the end of the campaign before they distribute funds. So I think it's just too high risk at this point. And so no, I cannot recommend that you artificially inflate your first day of sales. Not only that, like even if you find a way around that, you have to use your first day as a gauge to see if your campaign is actually converting. Because for example, like what we do is when we launch a campaign, I need to see if there are any issues with messaging. And I can't do that if we have fake sales numbers. So an issue with messaging is going to be where I look at the on-site conversion rate, which means I need to look at the amount of people that have seen the Kickstarter page against the number of people that buy. And if that is lower than 1.5%, it means that the offer, and there's something up with the page, and the page is not converting the way it needs to. So if you artificially inflate the price, you don't actually have a good metric on if there's a problem with the page itself. So you're like shooting yourself in the foot essentially by artificially inflating your first day sales. Okay. Yeah. So you can do it's not unspun narrative. I think it's that one. Let me just triple check. Yep. So unspunnarrative.com. That's the one you want to go to for the petite clothing company. She sends out great content, so I'd absolutely recommend following her. Can you go over the organic use of influencers again? Yeah. So when I look at how can I get around not paying influencers, influencers are consistently looking for great content to share with their audience. So when I look at micro influencers or people that have like under 25,000 followers, they typically will work for in exchange for product or an affiliate commission. So what this means is like when I identify an influencer that I want to work with, I need to approach them with an idea for how to work with them. And there are a few different ways to work with them. You can do a giveaway contest where you offer a prize pack or your product to one of their followers in exchange for something, right? In exchange for an email address. So this is a really great way to collect leads. Offhand, another way to do this without influencers is actually hosting your own giveaway contest. So that's where you can go to your own friends or email subscribers and say, hey, if you have a friend or family that you can refer to us, you can earn points and that can get you free product. Okay. If you want to see a really good giveaway contest, just look up Harry's giveaway. When they launched, they collected like 100,000 emails in 7 days. And that's how they launched. So Harry's giveaway contest. I'll just link to a good article. Magic giveaways. You know what? Harry's razors. Here we go. So this is a good link to follow to learn what they did. Okay, so that's like an idea of doing a giveaway contest for yourself. But going back to influencers, giveaway contest, which is excellent because you are leveraging someone else's audiences and you're getting in front of a bigger audience than yourself. Giveaway, you could ask them to share or promote or do a product review of your product. and you can offer them like, instead of saying I'll pay you $1,000 to do this, you can offer them a free product / an affiliate commission, which means you can offer them a percentage of referred sales. So for every dollar they refer in business to you, they get 10%. Okay, so stuff like that. You like, ultimately, when I look to partner with someone else, I want to look at how I can add value to them, which means if I can put a great product in front of their audience, but also compensate them fairly without having to pay them a fee, that's like ideally what I'm doing. Cool. So I hope that answers that question. How many times can a Kickstarter campaign be rerun if it fails? As many times as possible. Like, if a campaign fails, you'll have to go through their approval process again. But ultimately, I'm just hoping you're doing your due diligence to figure out why it failed and to correct that course so that you hopefully have a better chance of succeeding next time. So any other questions, guys? These are great questions, by the way.
Well, it looks like they're done with their questions.
Amazing.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for everybody being here tonight. Kirsten, this is fantastic. Everybody, we appreciate you. It's been a great semester of startup school, and I will be in touch with an email to everyone if we are fortunate enough to be back for the summer. Fingers crossed on that one. Kirsten, again, thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, until we meet again.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, guys.
Okay, bye,
Bye.
everybody.